it's been a long time for me to even have this conversation because I'm still kind of uncomfortable.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again, or to get something.
Welcome. How you doing, brother?
Good, James. How you feeling?
I'm doing real good, man. I appreciate you joining and gracing the Tune the Fork space. We have, as a special guest, Ryan Lucas,
Yes, sir.
DC native,
For sure.
rapper,
For sure.
producer,
For sure.
MC,
Uh-huh.
clothing brand extraordinaire, businessman.
Uh-huh.
Business, all about business, man. Just a beautiful human being, man. I really appreciate your spirit and being able to join me and the rest of everyone else today.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate the time. I've been following your movement, so it's a treat to be able to share space with you in your platform.
Man, I appreciate it. You allowed me to come on and talk a little bit on your segment, what is the segment titled?
It's called Afro Cool.
Afro Cool. Okay.
Yeah, Afro Cool. It's an opportunity for my clothing line Power in One to ultimately celebrate folks that are using their power to affect change.
Okay.
So we started with the musicians, of course, but then they're in all walks of life. There are people that are doing that, and that's what the clothing line is about. So we're pretty much supporting those people who are doing the things that we're promoting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Being as a cat that wears a bunch of hats, I heard you in a couple of different places when asked kind of like how you would describe yourself. One of the things that I think the title that resonated with me the most was Nation Builder.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I've been on this journey since about, 29, 30, of, finding my truth, finding my place, being comfortable in the things that I'm doing. And as I took that idea from personal, but then looked at it as a people, when I say people, African people, particularly in this country, and in studying some of our scholars, I thought about what are the ways that we can get what we want, the pursuit of happiness, because ultimately that's what we all want. We just want to be able to do what we want to do without being bothered. Yeah. That's pretty much like basic, I think, is what we want. And with our unique situation, or our situation that I believe that we're in, a part of that is controlling your resources.
Okay.
And ultimately controlling and protecting your resources, acquiring resources, controlling them and protecting them. That's what a nation does.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So in the sense of nation building is a mindset that I believe we should all have, in the sense that creating our own little space of acquiring resources, controlling them, and protecting them. So it starts with a thought, because I also consider myself a thought provoker. It starts with a thought, and what are the ways in my immediate lifestyle that I am nation building? What are the ways that I am, I'll say it one more time, acquiring my resources, controlling them, and protecting them. So that's what nation building is, and I take that and then share that with everyone else through the music, through clothing, through conversations, through the way that I interact with folks. Because ultimately, I said businessman before. Growing up, I'm not the person in my family that's like, oh, I want to start a business and be rich just to be rich.
Yeah, me either.
But when I figured out that when you own your resources, you really truly control your life. You control more of your life than the person that doesn't have resources. So, and that's how it works in our community. That's how the nation works. That's how the world works. So that's what nation building is. It's basically doing that.
And is that kind of like your orientation, just inward and outward. So all of the things that you do is centered around that piece of it.
I would love for it to be. Yes, I would love
Okay.
for it to be. I don't know. I don't know if I've always been that way or if it's natural to
Okay.
me. I think that it became apparent that was important when there's a threat to losing. When you have a threat to losing your resources or realizing how much control you do not have, that's when it became apparent to me that
Okay.
you have to, the best defense is an offense. And then I was able to, look at how, all of, nations or organizations or corporations work. The ones that are really able to be successful and maintain and sustain even, countries are the ones who have a offense. And that offense is their defense. That offense protects their resources. So I think that I try to utilize that for my day-to-day, my plan on how I move forward. How to interact with people, how I, conduct business, all those different things.
So before we turned on the camera, we talked a little bit about process and how interested I am in learning about people's process and listening to, kind of what makes them tick and how they got to where they are. I think you are a consistent force to me as being an outward observer. I can count on Ryan Lucas to be present often as an individual. And as a person who creates content, who gets up to show up, I know how much shit people have to overcome just to get there, and how many excuses people can make
Absolutely.
to not show up.
Yeah.
And yet and still, I still see this brother on Sundays. I still see him fresh. I still see him fly. I still see him doing his thing. And that's fuel and energy. And so, in thinking about how you got to be that kind of person, man, I wanted to have a conversation a little bit back before, like little Ryan,
Right.
who had a bunch of ideas, who was growing up in a household with 3 siblings and having these very strong forces in your life called mom and dad.
Right.
And just talking to you a little bit about that piece of it. I know your dad was a pastor. I know your mom was a guidance counselor, right? And and a word that you use very often is conservative. I've seen. So talk to me a bit about religion and how that shaped you moving through life and how it shaped you as a man.
Religion growing up in my household was identity.
Okay.
Not only was it the practice of the study of Christianity, but also it was the culture. I'm very close with my family in the DMV area, the Singletary family. It's my last name. In the DMV area, North Carolina area, we're very, very close because every Sunday we're in church together, sun up to sundown, Bible study Tuesdays, choir rehearsal Saturdays, so religion was more than just like a belief in some force that's controlling and that we go to get things, or that's our provider. It was my cousins. It was love.
Yeah.
It was love.
It was all synonymous.
It's all connected and together. So it wasn't like it was every day, So that's pretty much what that's what my understanding growing up what religion was. I mean, it was also about the stuff that was in the Bible, but it was really more than that. It was like acceptance. It was this is where my confidence is. This is where my everything comes from. That's what it was.
Did you have you changed your opinion about that now?
Absolutely. Well, about Christianity or religion in general, yes.
Okay. And given that that was such an integral part of your life and your family, how did those relationships change once your relationship with religion changed?
Right. Well, okay, so when I decided that I was exploring what religion is in general and what it meant to me in my personal life, it started off with, I mean, this is where the big long story, but I try to stick to your question. It started off with, I lost my mother and my brother, okay?
At the same time?
6 months apart. In 2010, my mom passed away in November. My brother passed away in April of 2011. My younger brother, he was 26 at the time. So I was 29, 30, it's the ages. I was so what happened is basically I went through a period of grief and confusion, just in general. My whole world was just kind of rocked, and anger. Not sure who to be angry at or what have you. But then at the time I was at the height of what I call my Christian walk.
Oh, wow.
I was serving in the church that I was, I wouldn't say I was like next in line to be a preacher, but I was serving really heavy in the church. I was leading small groups. So I'd have people come to my house, essentially have Bible study, 2 of them, monthly, weekly. I was heavy in that, and then my walk, I was reading, I was doing all these different things. And at that time, that was the most serious I was about my religion. Like before, growing up, culture.
Yeah.
But then as an adult, I started actually doing the reading.
You owned it.
I owned it. There you go. And it was been a long time for me to even have this conversation, because I'm still kind of uncomfortable about, because people say, oh, the reason that you don't, because of what you lost. Sure, that's where it started. Absolutely. But then as I got into studying, I believe, and I always say I'm a working project. But as I was studying and started to think and started to study history and that sort of thing, and started to question, that gave me the ability to question what is and what isn't. Because before I had no questions, like, oh, it is. God is, But then I said, what if there is no God?
Yeah.
And that was those life things that happened allowed me the ability to question. So how does my family or community, how do those work now? To be honest with you, I have not had a lot of this conversation with family. So it's still working. I'm still figuring it out. And I met this girl when I was living in LA, and she was atheist. Her parents were Jehovah's Witness. And we were having this conversation about, like, she's saying that, like, well, this is what I, told my parents and that sort of thing, how I'm moving forward. She's like, well, what do you tell your family? Because my father passed away as well, but he passed away when I was younger, when I was in college. And I said, honestly, haven't had the conversation. I mean, my siblings, my brother and my sister, and we've had, and then some family members I haven't really had the conversation with them, just haven't come up. What happens when I lost my mom, like, as far as me, I didn't have to. I sort of just blocked out a lot of stuff in relationships that I have that are on pause right now, because I was trying to figure out, it was 10 years ago, I was trying to figure out this world, life. And my brother passed, that's probably when it just went, this was.
So mom was in November, your brother was in April.
Mm-hmm.
What, if you don't mind me asking, man, what was your mom's name, bro?
Fanny.
Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
And your brothers?
Randall.
And all y'all R's?
my father's Robert Lysander Singletary. I'm giving all the governments. And my older brother is Robert. He's a second. And Ryan Randall. My sister is a V, Vanetta. Now she was born.
Okay.
She was named after my mom's sister, who right when she was born, my mom's sister transitioned. She passed away.
Wow.
So they named her after her. It's an interesting story because my mom was having this is before my Aunt Gracie passed away. Her name was Gracie Vanetta Parks, and my sister is Vanetta Grace. But my mom was having these visions, and she actually, I think, had dreamed her sister passing away. This is when she was pregnant with my sister. And so, it's just kind of like the spirits transition. There's a saying that when there's a transition, there's a new birth. Every time there's a birth, there's a death.
So Rob is the dude you was freestyling with in the basement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And he's your older brother.
2 years older, yeah.
So is it? What's the ages?
I'm 41. He'll be 43 in September. But then Randall was 2 years under us, so it's 222, and then my sister's 3 years under Randall.
Okay.
So this is the baby.
Bro, I can't even imagine what you're talking about and processing that, and just even trying to fucking process it. For me, as a dude over here, like, it's just hitting all kind of shit that's just making me just real emotional, man. And and I know that our parents, man, like the way I hear you talk about them, like they gave you what you needed, and they loved you, and
Absolutely.
you
I was raised in
felt
love.
yeah.
I was raised in love. Absolutely.
And to imagine how to make the transition to move forward when those kinds of influences are gone, it's a crazy thing, man. So in your one of the things I feel when I see you doing your thing, man, and when I listen to your music, is that you love blackness.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as a person who grew up the way that I did, I didn't love blackness.
Mm-hmm.
I despised it
Mm-hmm.
to a degree. Like everything I thought about that was associated with black was some nigga shit. And I wanted to do everything that I could to disassociate myself with it. And I think a large part of that had to do with my, influences and, the things I was introduced to at early ages. So I fell in love with blackness much later in life.
Mm-hmm.
And did you always love blackness the way that you do now, or did you start developing a stronger appreciation for it as you got older?
When I first came into what I call an awareness of the world as a black man or black person, black boy, I want to say that I came up with it, but it's not true. My parents instilled that. They instilled that identity in me. So the spirit of blackness has always been, or love for African, or Africa concept. Because I can even think back to, they would have cultural days at my school, in the elementary school. My mom would dress me up in a dashiki that she got, because she was a world traveler, that she got from Africa. She found an African chef, I'm not sure what country, and she cooked. She would bring to the school that I was going to, she would bring an African dish to teach the other kids that were in the school and myself about they getting a bit of a taste of Africa,
right.
African culture. So that was instilled in me. Now, did I have the knowledge of the education of the contribution of Africans? When I say African, I include Black Americans. I'll call that Pan-African, meaning I think one people. We're all Marcus Garvey, or one people.
So you consider yourself a Pan-African?
Pan-African, absolutely. So those words, the knowledge of all these scholars, and that sort came through college. So that's when I got to college, I started to understand an identity of the gift or the contributions that Africans have made in this world. And the reason that that's important to say is because it's not to say, well, I won't even say that. I'll say that I needed to understand the contributions of Africans to this world. And I do not believe I got an adequate understanding of that in elementary school, middle school, or high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I discovered all these things, all this history, it gave me, I believe it gave me a better sense of my place, our place, you know. And because, you know, I'm still to this day still learning things,
right?
Because, you know, the whole thing, our history doesn't start at slavery. Our history starts way beyond.
Yeah.
Wherever we are right now, there's a rich history. There's rich world history. We have imprints everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be had in a conversation, in every conversation.
Yeah.
However people want to take it, however people want to dissect it or deal with it, we have imprints everywhere. I think that's important.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just something to pass by, like, oh, how does that affect us now? I think that's the argument I hear sometimes. How does all that history affect us now? It absolutely affects us, because the way that you think about the way that you look at yourself or think about yourself affects how you talk to people, how you communicate with people.
And if it didn't matter, they wouldn't have hidden it.
They wouldn't have hidden it.
And the crazy part about it, have you ever, you know who Anthony Browder is, right?
Yes, Dr. Browder, yes.
Have you ever done his Egypt on the Potomac
I want
tour?
to. I saw because you told me about it.
Did we talk about it?
We talked about it.
They know. The people who are supposed to know, they know. They deliberately conceal that information because they understand just how powerful it is, and it's better access to information and the truth. More importantly, the information. There's a ton of information.
Sure.
There's just, you know, what we're lacking is truth and a lot of this shit. But they know. Otherwise, they wouldn't. It's like saying, I don't want to say that, but they know.
Absolutely. So that was instilled, though, with me with my parents, because I can go back to those instances. When I first started getting into concept, I've been lied to. What's going on?
Yeah.
But that's not the truth. I looked at instances. Now, my parents might not have said to me, like, you know, you see, what was the movie where it's like, I am Malcolm X, in the end of the movie, a Malcolm X movie, where all that, we didn't have that, where it's like, my parents were like,
joint?
You be black and proud, you black and proud. I mean, they may have said it or whatever, but it's more so that the culture of it. My mom made sure that I understood the culture of or, you know, there are many cultures in Africa, but to understand that we have a connection to Africa, to the motherland. So that's what that started. But I came into my own as an adult to understand, and now identifying who I am and how I come into it, and how I approach it, and how I promote the love of the culture. Because what I also was identifying with socially, friends, family, whether they're black or not, is that there's a not appreciation of being African.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just real.
Yeah.
I was listening to a gentleman talk, and I think that we have to, and it's everybody, it's just human nature. We all have been told things as kids, and those things kind of resonate with us. Or we see things. Mm-hmm. I was watching a documentary of this older brother, black man, and he was like, the only thing we knew about Africa was what was in the movies. He was American, was in the movies. And I saw the little kids, the dirty kids with the flies on the eyes.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why, yes, you'll see, if you follow me, you know that I love black culture.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, for yourself, you had to, and I had to go through this. I heard Dick Gregory say it too. I also study a lot of Dick Gregory's his interviews, and that's what I can read one of his books. Or I didn't finish it, but I'm getting to it. I have like 15 books I'm going through.
Likewise.
He said, I had to realize that, I'm paraphrasing, that I had to get this dirt off of me and realize that I even looked at myself and had to convince myself,
that I'm
beautiful. I had to convince myself because of all this smut that we've been put on us, you know. So
You got a lot of self-confidence, man, that doesn't feel like vibrato to me. Have you always had that? Because I know you said you viewed yourself as a shy kid growing up. And you weren't necessarily, that wasn't from low self-esteem. It was, let me rephrase that. I'm telling you. Have you always had the kind of self-confidence that comes off now?
I don't even know if I have self-confidence. I don't know if it's an act or I haven't figured it out. Or
Really?
If yeah, I don't know if it's pure. It's not all the time. I think that I'm a human in the sense that
Yeah.
if I need to step up and do something, I'm going to step up and do it. Am I going to step up every time? I'm not.
Okay.
Because I'm diplomatic. I'm more so, is it worth me sharing this? Now, you say internally. Internally, I believe I know who I am and I know my capability. There are times where I may not know how far I can go and I'll just say, do it, effort and do it, and just let, be scared and do it. And sometimes while I'll retreat. There was a period of my life where I had to realize that since I am not the one that's going to jump in and throw the first punch, I used to have a problem with that. I said, maybe I'm not aggressive enough. I did go through that. But I realized that I am wired to think, consider, and reconsider. That's my gift. My gift is not to react immediately. Now, some situations you may need to, but I am not going to be the first reactor. I'm going to sit and think about what you said, when you said it. Now, if there's like a physical thing where I had to get to somewhere and make it happen, absolutely. But first, I'm going to figure out where you are and what your mind state is. That's the first thing I do. I'm not an overreactor. So I don't know if that kind of connects with confidence. I think it does, meaning that I know my ability. I grew to know my ability, but I was never the one to jump in and just start controlling stuff or having to let everybody know how smart I am or have to let you know that how powerful I am.
So when you described yourself as a shy kid, what were you describing?
I mean, there are many instances of that. But I mean, I realize I'm an introvert.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's like toting the line, I think. Yeah, I think that might be it. I don't necessarily, like say for networking, I don't come in the room and I'm not the one that's going to work the room.
I got you. Okay.
Maybe that's what I meant.
Okay. Because there's an energy, and I'm glad I asked the question, even though it wasn't a good one, because you answered it for me in a way that helps me make sense of that in myself. Okay. Which is, I know I'm the shit. I got a poem or like some spoken word that I wrote on one of my joints that I did. And it starts with, I know I'm the shit, I just don't feel like it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it.
Absolutely.
And you can still have self-confidence peppered with self-doubt.
Absolutely.
And it's okay. Both sides of it is okay.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until you just articulated it the way you did that made that make sense.
So how do you decide? Is it case by case?
I think it's when you just said it like to a degree, like when you got to get some shit done. Like I can be in my head about some shit, but when that shit is go time, it's go time. Like there are no excuses. I'll create all of the, am I gonna do this? It's kind of like when I DJ. The minute I agree to do a DJ gig, bro, anxiety kicks in.
Yo.
The minute. I'm like, oh yeah, when is it? Oh, it's September 15th. I'm anxious about it right now. And I'll focus.
Absolutely, bro.
All the way thinking about what I'm gonna do. I'm imagining, okay, what if I do? What am I gonna do at 11 o'clock? What am I gonna play? This go together. And so I'll spend so much time envisioning that gig and I'll start preparing it.
Absolutely.
Preparing it. But once it's go time, it's go time. And I think for me, that space is what I'm calling self-doubt.
Yeah, I'll go with it.
But I could still be confident at the same time. So
My thing is, here's the issue that I have with people who are so confident that they don't question themselves. What if you're wrong? And what if you have an opportunity to change and reconsider in the middle of that? But because you want to be so self-confident that you just go with it. When you have an opportunity to say, you know what, that maybe not be the right road. Maybe I said that the wrong way. Maybe there's some healing or apologizing I need to do. But no, I just want to be, that's what I have an issue with some when it comes to like some of the politics, in a sense, or these, I'm tough on crime.
there's no room.
There's no room
The
to
cup
grow.
is full.
There's no room to reconsider and say, you know what, this was wrong. I wronged you. I do believe in myself and the choices I made at the time were right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's fix this.
Yeah. And just say that.
That's what
And they
that's
can't-
what that doubt is, maybe, part of it.
How old were you when your mom passed?
I was 30, 29.
And you were so basically the same age. You had just turned 30 with when your brother passed.
Yeah, he was in the hospital. That's why April was also a crazy month for me. He was in my birthday's April 13th. He was in the hospital April 5th. So we celebrated my 30th birthday. This is crazy too. Now, this is the first time I was gonna have a big party at a club. We bought out the club and 100 people on the list, Evite list or whatever. He had an aneurysm, so there was a bleeding in his brain. And April 5th, so had to cancel and all that. So it was a very public situation. So that was another difficult thing about it, but it wasn't your question. So I hit 30. We celebrated at my aunt's house with all my family, my 31st birthday at her house while my brother was in the hospital, and we realized that he wasn't, he was going to transition. So.
How old were you when your pops passed?
I was 22, I believe. I was. It was a week before finals of my senior year of college.
So within a 10-year period of time, that shit just.
Yeah.
Do you have markers in your creative process that you can kind of go back to that remind you of the shift that occurred
Absolutely.
at those moments?
Absolutely. The music is my book. Yeah.
Bro, your first studio project was I Want Her Back?
My first full length. My first studio project was the first full length. Yes.
First full length.
So I have two EPs that are just on Bandcamp. But my first, I'm proud of this baby. Here, I'm a rapper, I'm a musician, I'm a producer, was I Want Her Back to the world. Yeah.
And that was in 2018?
It was actually 2016. So it was 2016. It was, 2018 is when it's up there. That's a good point. 2016 is up there because I switched streaming services within the time. So 2016 is
So
when
it came out in 2016?
Yeah.
Got questions about that album.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go back before that.
Okay.
When the music was your book, at 22, what were you making when Pops passed?
Christian hip hop music.
I think it makes sense. Okay. Cause you crazy with that pen, dog, and not using a whole bunch of
Appreciate it.
expletives.
Oh, you're right. I mean, I know. You know what? As I got older, I use more curse words.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck it, But yeah, you're right.
So
I had this love when growing up. Like, I had this love for music, but I also I was serious about the faith. So I was trying to merge these together. And this was at a time, especially when hip hop in the church wasn't like now you have artists now that are able to like really do their thing fully, and get the support of people. There's an actual hip hop genre, Christian genre. But at the time there wasn't. It was just like I had this love for hip hop and I was serious about my faith. And so yeah, that was, college, and even like 20s and that sort of thing. I mean, I have a whole other life that I've lived, but for music wise, that was that.
What did your parents think about you doing hip hop music?
They celebrated it.
Okay.
My dad would let me rap at the church, I played drums too. My brother and I, like he played the piano, so we had this little crew. He played piano, played
and this
drums.
was Robert or?
Robert, yeah,
okay.
Rob.
Okay.
So I know he tries to like, at this point, he doesn't talk about it, he's, but I'm putting him out, so.
So they were supportive when it was the church music. So when Pop's transitioned, when you were 22, did your music, was the music you were making, did that change?
Okay, so I wasn't as on it, as serious as I am now, as far as music. So it wasn't like my identity. It was something I did when I came home in the basement for years. I wasn't sharing it. So, I mean, I guess you could look at it like I was crafting.
So you were rapping.
Yeah.
Like what KRS said, rap is something you do.
Yeah.
Hip hop is something you live.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know much about it. I didn't grow up with the ciphers on the corner and that sort of thing. I knew from what I saw and experienced, with some classmates, that sort of thing. And DC isn't like New York, where, birthplace where it was popping up on the corners and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I was always identified as like a Christian MC up until Boy Meets Girl, which was 2011, 2010. So honestly, it switched right when 2010, 2011.
Who's Kevin?
Right. So what happened was Kevin was my transition out of this Christian hip hop to just hip hop music.
Okay.
So it was an uncomfortable, because I had to battle with myself to say now I want to be more authentic about my, where I'm at versus.
It was your coming out, so to speak.
It was a coming out thing.
I got you.
Kevin is, I don't even know where I got the name from, but I like the name because it means handsome and well liked. So it might have been a part of my ego booster, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I had this.
Okay.
It was an identity thing. And my friend in college, joked with me about that. He's like, "Is Kevin coming today?"
Because I was looking like, hold on, man, who's Kevin?
Yeah.
And so
it was a transition. It gave me the ability to transition into more of myself. And so I sort of maybe stepped out of myself and came back to myself.
What were you battling? Did you think that you weren't going to be accepted in the Christian world if you went a little bit more secular? Because I know that is
right. It wasn't that. I was battling wanting to be more myself and not wanting to be rejected as myself.
And who were you that you weren't showing up as at the time?
Now remember we talked before where I felt like my family is about image, a great image. I believe this is just my perspective, what came from.
I got you.
So I'm not even like going to put this on anybody. I'm going to say this is what I built up in my head. That I wanted to be more of myself, and more of myself wasn't aligned with my religious background. So this is something, as I'm talking to you, I'm working through it. This is something that I was battling within me. So being more of me, how I talk on the daily, what are the things I talk about and think about? And I have some thoughts, even now on this new project, and concepts that I share with people. And I'm not expecting them to get it, but there's a point to it. I think that I had to realize that I've always thought I was different, but I really am convinced now I'm different. I think different. I have these ideas and concepts. Now, there are people out there that have them, and I see them, I watch them or whatever. I don't have friends like that.
Yeah.
I just am different. It took me a long time to understand I'm different.
And it's a weird feeling.
It's a weird feeling.
And you sometimes, for me, I feel isolated sometimes.
Isolated.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what I was trying to get to with all the different changes of more of who I am.
Okay.
And I don't know what would have happened if my parents were still here. Would I have been able to come to this place of liberty, of freedom and truth? I don't know. All I know is I deal with what I have now and where I'm at now. I love the way that I think. I love the way that I push things. I love it. It comes
Beautiful.
it came with pain,
Yeah.
of course, the loss and all that stuff. One time, another DJ friend of mine said that, like, your music, I'm hearing like pain. And I didn't even think about it until I started going back and listening to stuff. And I said, well, this is, it's like the therapy session,
Yeah.
So, but it's ultimately, if I was to write, what is the theme of it's just me getting to my truth. This is all this, the whole process, all those different steps, all those different things is getting to my truth. I like to experience and try things out. I think, I tell people I live 5 lives. I love the fact that I've tried things that I'm not doing right now.
Yeah.
Because I know, that wasn't it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm telling you, man. Watching you move, man, for the right person is very inspirational. I think about myself the way you think about yourself and your thoughts. And I can sit and I can look at something and be like, huh. And see something that nobody else sees.
Yeah.
Terrell is somebody who can see.
Yeah.
He's one of the very few people who I can say something to and not feel like I'm an alien,
Right.
but I'm like amongst like a fellow person, because most people are sitting back. And I think a lot of it too has to do with what our relationship to music and sound is. It's a real, it's like what bonds us in a way, because it's like the way that the way we can see the music and hear something and how it can touch us in a way, like it's like he gets it. It's a weird thing, but because if I talk to my brother, I talk to certain people, they'd be like, man, fuck are you talking about, bro? I don't even, and it makes you not want to talk. And I've had to learn how to get so okay with being misunderstood and not being, because like just even doing this, I just gotta talk. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Just give me an opportunity to just pontificate.
Right.
And I'll figure it out and I'll get it in my head and I'll put it back in, I'll move on and go do some other stuff. So like with my lady, I'll wake up in the morning. Mornings are the time when I'm doing the most of that kind of thought.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there and do it, and I can tell she's kind of checked out, but kind of not. And so I'll just lean on and be like, thank you for at least just listening.
Yeah.
She ain't trying to solve the problem. She ain't trying to poke holes in what I'm saying. She ain't saying I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. She's just letting me talk.
Right.
And it's a good feeling, but it feels good to know that I have a friend in my life who I feel at least gets it, and I don't feel isolated.
Yeah. I have a couple cats like that, right? But they're also on the same journey. So, yeah, it's it's a lonely life. Like it's a lot of times.
You mentioned something about not knowing if you'd be where you are in your discovery if like the parents were still
because I love my parents and I respect them heavy. And I respect elders and I respect what they say and think and do. And I'm all about reputation. You know, I come from that. I'm all about never putting anybody who is giving me something or shared something with me or provided for me in a situation where somebody's looking at them. Like, what did you do wrong or what have you? You know? But, you know, I've come to I was thinking about like all the conversations I was lost and not having with my father because I was 21, so I wasn't really like a man, right? And I would like to think that as I came into myself, that I would be able to be who I am and still be able to have that dialogue with him. You know, I don't know, but you had to.
No, it's a conver view.
Yeah,
What did I say?
sure.
Interstation. No, my dad passed a lot later,
Okay.
and it's strange because our relationship, it wasn't a sudden. You know, he had cancer, or whatever, but we got a lot closer, man, and we got to really just share and say shit.
Yeah.
Which helped the transition, helped me manage it a lot better. But I want her back.
Mm-hmm.
What's that album about?
Mm-hmm. Well, jumping into relationships, right? For some reason, or not, maybe not for some reason, I say I love hip hop. I love relationship music about hip hop music about relationships. You take your Tribe, LL Cool J, you know, and also I love neo soul music.
Okay.
So I always said if I could sing, if I could hold a tune, I'd probably be an R&B singer because I have a love for music. And as far as like my favorite is probably like a neo soul R&B. So I'm making love music, but using hip hop to do so. I Want Her Back is the third part of a series that I created. Like when I came with my first EP was Boy Meets Girl, which is like about meeting, because also at that time and even now, you know, I enjoyed the process of dating especially at that time, you know, 20s, 30s. I enjoyed the process of meeting a woman and us going through the transitions. As I get older now, I'm like, all right, I'm over the dating part, but I love women. And not to say I love women in multiple sense, but in the sense of I love the feminine energy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I love women, and so I love being around them. I love, you know. So basically, I Want Her Back is a part of that, a relationship, and it was a combination of a bunch of relationships.
Of your personal experience.
Personal experiences, for the most part, or they were, you know, inspired by other people's. But most of the situations or stories were either what I saw or what I wanted in a relationship. So got Boy Meets Girl, which talked about the, you know, all the great things about meeting someone and connecting and building and having intimacy. Then the next chapter was a little bit more dark, which is the EP, which I talked about the challenges of relationships. And then the full length, those were both EPs. Then the full length was I Want Her Back, was about old love. Coming back to it, renewing, restoring, securing, you know, satisfying each other. And it did parallel with a relationship that I had.
Okay.
But it had ended. This relationship went on from about 2004 to 2008. No, I'm sorry, 2006, 2008, which was the only woman that I know of that I was in love with. That was the first time that I had met someone who I was like, I didn't think I would ever find that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I didn't think it was possible. And so that's why I didn't know what love, as far as like me being that tied to someone, like I feel like our souls like connected. I never had that. So since I didn't have it, I feel hard. Because I'm like, oh wow, this is it. Now, what happened was we had logistical issues because she moved. We already knew she was moving. She moved to New York. I was in Baltimore at the time, but she moved to New York. And then the space, she was reconnecting with her people. I'm reconnecting here at the time. And so whatever it was, stopped. Now, it didn't stop in the sense of how I felt. It stopped. I wasn't willing to move. She wasn't willing to move. And so it was like we're just gonna just like, and so I want her back. Part of that is from that. Is that dream kind of thing. But that would never happen. But it's like, if I took it to the next step, this is what would happen.
Why didn't you move?
So let's get into that. So that's so in 2004, I went to University of Baltimore Law School. I met her in 2006. She was going to another law school in Maryland as well. We both were figuring it out. We both graduated. Now at the time, she had been. Now you asked let me answer your question first. Okay, the reason I didn't move is because I was back in the city. I was back in DC. I was back with my people. My mother was here. When my father passed away, it gets kind of weird, but when my father passed away, this is actually the real thing. I went to school follow me. I went to school in North Carolina, UNC Greensboro, North Carolina. My father passed away my senior year. I was not planning on coming back to DC.
What year was that?
That was 2003.
Okay, 2003.
Okay, so let's go there. 2003, I wasn't planning, I was gonna stay in North Carolina, but my mother was here. She had lost her life partner. My brother and my sister were here, 2 cousins, they were all staying in the crib with her. And honestly, I felt like I needed to come and make sure she was straight. So I came back home after I graduated. So then as I was trying to think about grad school, I only applied for schools in the area, got into Baltimore. So that's the reason I went to Baltimore. And I was going back and forth, DC to Baltimore, but I was living in Baltimore. And I had never experienced DC as an adult.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I graduated, I said, I want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
When we met, I knew she was moving. When we met, she knew she was moving. It wasn't like, but I guess the connection was so real. I was like, wow. So when she moved, I thought we'd be straight. I had never had a long distance relationship, but then I had never been in love either.
Right.
And I was telling somebody the other day, the concept of marriage has always been in my vocabulary or the ideal. But honestly, to this day, I don't even think I could be serious about marriage. Like, I don't even know if I really can understand it. I don't know if I'm there yet for that.
Why not?
It's so permanent, so final. This is the decision. I'm choosing you for the rest of my life. And, there's so much that can happen. I guess I just think about like all the extras.
Man, you saying so much shit, bro.
So I know the story jumbo, but you kind of get.
No, I'm just saying like because as a nation builder, mm-hmm. there are responsibilities within that.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. Yes.
So
let's go.
How do you reconcile that piece of it?
Right.
Because listen, you had a good example. Mom and pops, that's the archetype. That's the formula.
And they weren't perfect. They had problems.
But the perfection is in the commitment.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they got through it. They stayed together.
And that's so. Do you struggle with the idea? Let me take another step back. You believe in love? Is that something that you?
It wasn't a belief. I was living it.
Okay. Is that something? Have you felt that way since then?
No.
Is that something you look for?
I don't know.
In determining whether or not a connection with a woman is worth pursuing.
Absolutely not.
You don't even look for it.
It's not a determining factor.
It's not.
At this point,
So,
it's not.
so you ain't gotta feel that
I don't.
in order to commit to a
Because
woman.
I don't believe it can because I did not search for it when it came. I don't believe. Well, I'll say this: if it comes, fantastic. I don't know if I can control it. I can't say that yes, I'm gonna, But what I can say is that my life is finite, and if I want to partner with someone, I got to make a decision. I don't have to rush into it, but I got to make a decision with someone. You gotta say the 80-20 thing. You know what I'm saying? Would I like, just being honest and transparent, I would love for that to happen. Am I uncomfortable about the idea of it never happening? Absolutely. And it may not happen. I'm sorry, not confident. Am I confident that it's going to happen? No. But see, I don't like to move in the fake confidence either.
Okay.
Now, I can be confident with everybody else, but to myself, I'm not going to lie to myself and say, oh, that's going to happen. It's going to be all right. Because I've been in situations where it wasn't all right. So I don't know. But I'm not going to walk around, and people can, I respect it, but I'm not going to walk around and keep speaking something that may not happen. I'm going to speak what is and what I hope, or what trust I'm going to trust into and believe it. But I can't control another person. I can't control how I react. I was given who I am. It was given to me. We have choices.
Yeah.
But I do not have the choice to fall in love with someone. I do not think. Do you think that you can fall in love with somebody and say, I'm going to fall in love with her?
So it's a little different. So walk with me. I believe that the opportunity exists for everybody. To me, love is a connection. And it is the connection that binds all things. And so that connection is more easily felt with some people than it is others. But the opportunity to develop and nurture that connection exists between every male and female relationship. It just depends on how much work you want to put in to develop and nurture it, and how much work the other person wants to put in to develop and nurture it. And I think that's why a lot of arranged marriages end up are more successful from a long-term standpoint, because the metrics that they're using are different. The concept of this, of the emotion-driven desire, what's the other word? Romantic elements of it are new. That ain't even some African shit, right? In terms of how we connected. We developed that over time. How do you solve your problems? How connected are you to your bullshit? How committed are you to your community and your people? Who gives a fuck if you love me? Do you love your neighbor? Do you love the person you don't know? Because that's going to show me ultimately how you love me and how you demonstrate patience and all of those kinds of things, right? And so most of the women that I've connected with in that way, the carnal, not just carnal, but also in that in love way, most of those relationships were they were more reflections of my weaknesses than my strengths. And so
That's good, bro. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. So maybe I have to redefine, but because I like that. I want that. That's what I want. I want it to be not the feeling part. Commitment.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
And that's different. And that's what I am trying to focus my time, my energy towards now. The feelings come and go. I have to anticipate that. I have to focus on something else that
I gotta write that down.
transcends the feelings. My decision making and my desire to be and stay committed to something has to transcend how I feel about it.
That's gold.
Cause
That's it. I agree with you. That's what I want to get to. Absolutely.
and I think at least a part of that mindset helps. Because what I want to build, what I envision for my life is building a community of people that I think can grow into like the nation piece.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to be like, and the thing that watching you helps me do is be committed to an example,
Mm-hmm.
and to an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of what I feel you talk about and how you show up is like, there's this idea of
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Lucas, bro,
Mm-hmm.
that I fuck with,
Mm-hmm.
that resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're finding a lot of ways of demonstrating that idea. And you're not necessarily attached to any one thing. Like, you willing to try a bunch of different shit in pursuit of reflecting that idea. Because all of it are pieces of who you are and what you want. What?
I think part of the trying different things is because as you're talking, I'm like, am I trying these things because I'm thinking they're going to get me to where I'm supposed to be, and I realize that's not it, so I move on to the next, or not move on to the next, or I share that space with the next to get there. Oh, that's not going to do. Or what's next? What's going to be? So, and ultimately, I don't know if there's an end goal, but maybe it's an end feeling that maybe the feeling honestly isn't the way it needs to go to. But in the meantime, the journey has provided. So I'm finding it's all the journey. Right now, it's all the journey because I look back. Because when you're doing stuff, when you're working, like whatever you see me doing, I don't really think about I don't really think back to how much until you look back. That's why I like to capture footage, video, things like that, because it helps you to like look at the things back. But is this pursuit I have in my bio about reaching the pursuit of happiness? These things that I do are pushing towards that in a constructive way.
And here's the thing, though. I was just talking to my brother about this. A lot of what we're talking about creating, we've never even seen.
Right. 100%. 100%.
We don't even know. It's like when you're making a beat. How the fuck do you know it's right? You don't know. But you do know at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's you might change a little piece or add this little piece there, and then somebody else might listen to it and they might be like, man, that's tight. You should leave that the way that it is. Now there is such thing as somebody who's a perfectionist and those kinds of things, but you know when it's right and what it isn't. And in your pursuit of this concept of happiness, you're gonna do a lot of things, but that's the beauty of it. At least you're doing them.
Right.
And it might be for this larger thing, but you're also willing to let it go.
Right.
And you're not just doing anything.
Right.
You ain't up here with a bunch of chicks with their asses out.
Right.
Like, you ain't doing anything
Right.
to get
Right.
more visibility.
Right.
You're doing specific things
Absolutely.
that reflect who you are. I would agree with you if you were saying, if I just seen, I know dudes out there who are literally doing anything.
Right.
And they'll say something like, oh man, I looked at my analytics and, I don't have a lot of women viewers. So let me go see what I can do about getting more women viewers.
Right.
And then you look up and, he might have the spray hair because he's bald and women like that
Right.
kind of shit.
Right.
You're intentional about the things that you're doing and it all reflects it. But what I'm saying is I think you're gonna pick from that pool of possibility of things that reflect
Oh, absolutely.
nation building.
Absolutely. 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 okay, so when we talk about responsibility, I do have a responsibility. Now, I haven't made myself responsible to a woman for a long period of time, but I I believe I have a responsibility to those who I'm connected to.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, whether it's somebody I know or see something. I have a responsibility to give them healthy, the look and feel of a healthy lifestyle, in all aspects, or try to.
Mm-hmm.
Transparent and healthy. Because I do believe we have the ability to influence, but also it also helps me stay grounded and righteous. I do want to be a righteous person and continue to live a righteous life as much as possible. I want to do right. My dad would say, do right because it's right. I want to do right because it's right.
Yeah.
No reciprocation from it, just because it's right. It's the right thing.
What's Pop's name?
Robert.
I always like to speak, especially, yeah, you did say that, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
People who transition, it's real important for me to say their name,
Yeah.
like in the space.
Yeah.
To just feel like it gives them, not to say permission, they're already here, but it gives them, like it gives us an opportunity to create space for them in another dimension.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, cause they're already here, they're always here, but like just saying their name, it's like, okay, boom, they get to sit there.
Yeah.
Boom, they get to sit there
Right.
and just participate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your relationship? Like, are you in relationships? Like, are you a dude who kind of like go in and out with the ladies? Like, what's that?
I like what you said before about the anticipation of my feelings and moods changing, right? Or feelings changing. So I think that's what I've allowed my moods and my feelings to control kind of my relationship department, which isn't. It's counterproductive to.
In a bad way, of what you perceive to be a bad, like, is that
because
okay.
I stay in the moment. Instant gratification.
Okay.
So I can talk about where I am now and then where I want to be. I mean, I guess that's that way. I mean, I do want to be have a life partner. I do want to have someone who is well, then even you get into what mine is, territory and all that stuff. I'm still working through that part. Yeah. I'm also trying to break this. It's a tradition of what is and what isn't. Roles, gender roles, things like that. I mean, I'm reconsidering everything, like as far as power and that sort of thing. Because my parents, even though my parents, maybe the people outside may not know, even though my parents, were married and in a traditional way, my mom had a lot of power in the house. She wasn't what you consider the submissive woman,
right?
So,
and I think it's like that with most black families. That part of the story doesn't get told often.
It doesn't get told.
And or because of the role, had them in and not to cut you off, please hold the thought. But because the role might have been like, not to say your mom was a working mother, but when the traditional one is a stay-at-home mom, just because they stay at home don't mean that they not running shit. A lot.
Absolutely.
Women,
right.
Yeah, I'll just leave it there. It's a totally different relationship. And I think we really do the legacy of womanhood a disservice when we speak in a way that doesn't highlight the true power that they had in those dynamic relationships. It's an oversight, a complete oversight.
I'm reading this book now called The African Woman Was the First Guardian Angel, and I can't recall the author, but it's talking about the divinity of the woman, black woman, and also talks about historically what the African woman, the value of the African woman in the household, and how much power they actually have. And nowhere in there does it talk about necessarily a man taking care of everything with the woman. It talks about the woman has very important roles that makes the man be who he is.
Yeah.
So you know, it goes along with the concept that you just said that's a misconception. I think that we have a, you know, as far as the submission and what it is and what a man does and what, you know, I do believe in order and I don't believe in chaos, but I do believe that the way they make it seem like man just controls everything is not, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's not realistic.
It's not.
I mean, and if you ever spoken to a woman who's a housewife, quote unquote housewife, how much work they have to do,
Yeah.
when they holding it down and they have children,
Just different work.
they
But it's
should be
work?
honored
Yeah,
for all
they
that
should.
stuff they do. They got a lot to deal with. So, you know, it's not so for anybody to think that a woman comes into a marriage and it's going to be easy for her, whether she feels that way or the man thinks that, oh, I'm just going to take care of everything. That's not the case. I mean, some people do that, but there's something missing if that woman isn't putting in that work, you know, there's something missing.
You mentioned about where you are now and you're letting your feelings.
Yeah, so I think, you know, last year I did a lot of work in trying to figure out why I wasn't having successful relationships. And part of it was that I was not wanting to release that power of giving someone an opportunity to being vulnerable ultimately with someone. So, I mean, it's not like it's a button I can switch on, but I'm being more aware of when I want to retreat, what that looks like, and why do I feel this way. It's because I'm leaving stuff out. I'm not sharing certain things with a woman. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave.
What do you think that's about?
Judgment. But every woman that I've been vulnerable with has been able to appropriately, you know, respond. So I don't know if that was something I don't know where it originated from, but.
So if the women are okay with it, it sounds like you're not okay with it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good, yeah.
Why do you think you're not okay with it?
Image. It's not conscious though, because I don't want to have I don't think, yeah, image. Image of being human. Imperfect. Not having it together, not having the right decisions made. The responsibility of making a decision for someone that's going to affect somebody else and it not going the way it's supposed to go. It failing.
And maybe these are the kind of conversations you were talking about wishing you could like have with pops and shit now that you're older and you understand what some of the dynamics, how some of those dynamics show up. Because, you know, on all accounts, it sounds like he was that guy, you know what I'm saying? And figured out ways of doing that, like maybe like in his own life that could.
I might romanticize it. It's probably uglier than it was, but you know what I'm saying? You know how you look back and say, oh, they did this and do that on paper, like, yeah. In the midst of it, you know.
But I think that is precisely the point, though.
Right.
And I think that's what we miss. It's funny how the people I have people in my life whose parents are still together.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how they seem to be the ones who struggle the most in relationships at times.
I think I heard you say that. Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think you said it though.
I think,
what was the reason you said it?
I don't even remember. I wish I could, but it's definitely been a pattern. They struggle with commitment.
Yeah.
They struggle with acceptance. It might be like a sense of like intimacy issues or something. I don't know. There's there's a struggle there that prevents them from recreating what they saw.
Because you see the ugly. Well, for me, I think part of it, I can go back to see the arguments that they had, my parents had, and then me feeling like they're trapped.
You felt that.
I felt that they were trapped. One of them or both of them were trapped with each other at times from things that they said. So maybe
Okay.
it may be.
I understand that now. Okay. I can. But that's, and now I understand. So it is but you're choosing to be trapped.
Uh-huh.
And I think as we get older, I don't know how we demonstrate that kind of shit to kids. And I think there's a reason why in the Bible they say good and bad, rich and poor. They're examples of not focusing on the condition, but on the commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute and because the number of conditions are innumerable, there has to be something other than that we have to focus on that gets us to the other side.
Right.
And sometimes the other side is we wouldn't accept anybody's shit if we didn't have to.
Right.
And they wouldn't accept ours.
Right. So why voluntarily accept?
Because there's this chasm, there's this ocean that we got to get to the other side of. And the only way we're going to do that is if we agree to get in this motherfucking boat, realizing that there's no exit strategy, and we're going to figure this shit out so that we can get to the other side. Because we wouldn't do it any other way. We would just be fucking around. We'd just be having casual interactions. Right. We wouldn't commit in a way that would cause great discomfort in the individual, that helps foster patience, understanding, demonstrating these things. So that one of the beautiful things about the Bible is how they say God loves us, and how patient they say that he is, and the grace that he extends, and all of these things. When you created the framework, you can do all of that. So he's not loving the condition, he's loving the person. He's not loving what we do, he's loving the person, right, who we are. Right. And a lot of times when we're talking about whether or not we like people, we're talking about what they're doing. We're not talking about who they are. So I can disagree with you, I can argue with you, I can call you out your name, I can fuck around, I can make a mistake, I can fail you, but that doesn't, I can go through a failure, but that doesn't mean that I am a failure.
Right.
In this effort.
Right.
And so there's no other way to do that, I feel, than through a marriage, because that's the commitment. Right. That's the boat that people get, that a couple gets in and then tells their community what their intention is. Right. To get to the other side. Can't just, I don't think you could just do it saying, hey, we just gonna be together. We're gonna move in together. Like, in our society as it's based now, that's not the highest form of commitment. It's not the highest level of commitment. Right. And so, what is the highest level of commitment in our society today? It's marriage. And so you find somebody and you say, we're getting ready to demonstrate our commitment to each other in the highest form possible. and we need y'all help.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're about to do. And then everybody rallies around and says, okay, it's going to be hard,
Mm-hmm.
but let's do it. We're with you. And then boom, you go. I think it's a different statement when you just like, let's just get together. And then you can just leave.
Right.
And like, you can focus on your feelings.
Right.
No, I just don't feel like it anymore.
Right.
I just don't feel like we've grown apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine a nation being built with those values. Nothing would get done. Humans are too fickle,
Exactly.
especially now.
I agree with you.
But I know we didn't talk a lot about music, bro.
No, that's all in the music. Everything we talked about. We did talk about music. That's all in the music.
How we doing on the time? Oh, 120. You got 2 nieces.
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
9 and 8.
Okay. And they love their uncle, Brian.
For sure. I believe so. I'd like to think so.
You want kids?
If it's meant to be, I want to first be committed to someone before I have children. But I heard someone say one time is like the most like revolutionary thing that a brother could do is to get married and have children. And that really stuck with me, like, if you don't want kids.
And be faithful. I add a caveat to it because I agree. But it's the commitment and the faithful piece. And for me, I don't think it's the same necessarily for everybody because everybody has different challenges, you know, with shit, man. And I think ultimately the most revolutionary thing a person can do is change themselves. That whatever, and you can demonstrate that through, because we all know our bullshit, we know our weaknesses, we know what our shortcomings are, we know what we're scared of, we know what's driving bullshit behavior, you know, and it's a lot easier to judge other people for that shit. But for a long time, I didn't know I could say I wanted kids.
Why is that?
I think I was afraid of fucking up somebody's life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as I say that, I say it's a bullshit thing because I don't think I would even do that. But
Right.
But what is that even about?
Right.
Everybody who I talk to say, oh man, you'd be a great dad. You a nurturer, you know, you listen, you're patient, you all of this shit. But I'm walking around here thinking I'm gonna fuck up somebody's life.
And do you think that the majority of people that have children even had that conversation with themselves to even consider whether that was the case?
Probably.
You think so? The ones that have children? I think a lot of people are having kids without, they're saying, nah, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
You true. That's true. That's true.
I mean, it's just like me with the marriage thing. I mean, it sounds like you have the similar thing when it comes to the kid thing. It's like, you know, I think about all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But.
And is that just the mind that's just trying to mitigate risk? Or at least anticipate them so that you can mitigate them? Because you got to think about a risk in order to.
I think it's good to consider it.
Yeah.
I don't think that, you know, in life in general, just as beyond just marriage or kids, you should stay stuck in it, right? You know, you have to make a decision and, You know, like you were saying before, all the steps you have to take with the marriage or the commitment to it. Same thing with children, preparing yourself for it. So what I've done, because as of maybe a year and a half is when I decided, oh, maybe I want kids. I've started to think about what are the areas in my life that I have to strengthen or better so that I can prepare and make space for a wife and children. What are some of the things I kind of like have to work through, whether they're physical or you know, mental or whatever, or spiritual or socially? What are the things that I should sort of put myself in the best situation so when I do have that and presented with it, it's kind of like the whole thing of, you know, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, I'm willing to take the steps towards that. Let me prepare so that if an opportunity happens, because I do believe in choice, but I still believe that we have opportunities that come to us. And making sure that if that opportunity comes in the capacity that's supposed to come, or that an acceptable capacity, then I'm ready for it and just walk into it as much as possible. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but.
So do you believe that once you choose something, the choices that leads to that, the opportunities, once you choose something, the opportunities that lead to manifesting that choice arise?
I want to believe that. I want to believe that if you put something out there, you put time and effort towards something, that maybe it's that you're now looking for it, because it could be that red, you know, that red car could have been driving down the street for years, but you didn't realize you wanted it.
Yep.
You had a for sale sign on it.
Right.
Until you decided, oh, I want a car. And you start looking up. Now the car been driving down the street for years.
Yep.
But it finally, now I'm ready to buy the car.
Yep.
It's right there. So I think that's what it is. It's more so the opportunities are there. They just become uncovered. They become discoverable once we align ourselves with what we're ready for it. When we say we're ready for it, and we're not just saying it, but we're acting towards it happening.
There's action.
Because I also do believe that you can have a baby or have these things when it may not be the best to do so. So I believe you can make choices that I wouldn't say wrong. I would say that are you didn't use your wisdom in moving forward with it. So I'm not saying that you take every opportunity just because there's a woman who you want to have unprotected sex with, and you know, and you just shoot the club up and then you have a baby. No. How about you know?
Yeah.
How about I prepare myself so that I'm able to? So I've been working on my friendships, my family, how I communicate with my family.
Yeah.
The things that used to like piss me off before or get on my nerves, or why? I ask myself why. Why am I feeling this way? And I communicate to them. Because you said it before preparing for the moods. So I let them know, you know what, I've been struggling with this, and this is what happens when I'm in it. And so my friend, I have a couple good friends who, when I'm in the midst of it, as we're doing life together, I let them know, this is how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Remember I was telling you before? This is how I feel. So we'll talk about it. Well, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And it's usually because there's something that I'm insecure about that I don't want to share. And I share it, and I'm like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So I'm practicing, for better or for worse. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I tell my friends, like, I'm practicing on you.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing life together. These are the things I'd like to, and you do the same thing for me. Let's work these things through, because this is someone, when I decide there's going to be one person, I need to figure out how I'm going to react to certain things. I may not be able to figure out everything, but maybe I can mitigate some of those things as unknowns. It's like in preparation. I'm never going to arrive somewhere, though. I believe that I'd just be a better place further along of the journey.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any regrets?
well, what are regrets?
I don't know. I answered you too quickly. That was a cop out. A regret is I want to define the word with the word in the definition. A regret is a negative feeling associated with an outcome. I don't know.
That's kind of broad. If that's what it is, a negative feeling with an outcome.
Well, that's associated with an action.
If it's just that definition, absolutely. Now, because every risk I've taken didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. So, but if it's that broad, I thought, maybe we would regret. I guess my definition is of something that you did that you wish you really shouldn't have done.
Yeah, that's way better than mine.
I don't have those. I have, because what I say is that in the moment, I made a decision based off of the information I had and I include how I feel. I know maybe that might be a little touchy for people because, as we talked before, emotions sometimes lead you in directions that maybe you the next day would have done something differently. But I always say I made a decision at the time based off of what was going on in the circumstance. I'm confident in that. Were they all right? No. Were they all wrong? No. So that's why I say I don't have regrets. But if it's did I make a decision that I have a negative feeling for or whatever? Absolutely.
I think yours is because what I think I'm identifying the thing because I don't even know really what the definition of the word is now that you asked what is it, but I've knowingly hurt people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
was there a reason?
Yeah, but
I guess I give myself an excuse.
It was a bullshit reason, but it's almost like when you shouldn't do something and you do it. I'll give you, this will be an extreme. Let's say, I know I'm not supposed to drink and drive. I know I'm not supposed to drink and drive, but I do it all the time. And I go out here and I drink and drive and I hit someone and they end up becoming a paraplegic. Do I regret that?
Got you.
I would think I would because I knew I wasn't supposed to. I know I'm not supposed to drink and drive. Now, let's say you call me and be like, hey man, my car broke down. Can you come pick me up? And it's 2:00 in the morning and I'm get up out of the bed and I go pick you up. And through that process, not drunk, anything like that, I'm going to go help somebody. And I fall asleep at the wheel of the car and end up in the same outcome. I don't regret that.
Because your intent.
Because my intent.
Oh. Okay.
So I think regret for me relates more to intention.
Okay.
And the negative consequences of those intentions as I'm talking it through.
Got you. I believe that my intentions, I'm not saying always, but 99% of the time are pure.
Okay.
Now, it may have affected someone in the wrong way. Well, let me not say that. Let me not lie. Okay, there are things there, absolutely, that the intent was off now, of those things, I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head because most of the time, every decision I made, whether it was unwise or not, I believe there was some kind of reasoning behind it.
Okay.
That made sense to me in my head.
Yeah.
In my, out the box head, but may not have been the best for whoever it affected. I agree with that part, but.
So, what music you working on? You mentioned the project.
Yeah, so with Brunch Beats, I had season 1, which didn't have a length of time. It was like when I was done. So season 1 was like 60 episodes, and I did once a week every Sunday, and then took a break. And from there, I created an album, instrumental-ish album called Brunch Beats, which is streaming everywhere. And then,
Like acai bowl.
Oh, thank you. And then so I had a reboot with season 2, which ended about a month or two ago. And I called season 2 the 10-week album. And basically what I did was, as these beats that I was creating, I was also creating songs for once a week for the batch, some of the batch, the beats that I was making.
Okay.
So I made a beat each week, and I showcased it on the Brunch Beat Season 2. So I got through the 10 weeks, and these were demos, meaning the way that I work as an artist is I'll lay down a track, produce the track, write the lyrics. I mean, sometimes, they come from different places, not always like computerized that way, but lay down a track, write the lyrics, and then I will do a version of it. I will record a version of it, a workable version that I feel like it's enough to share. It's not clean, it's not polished, but it's enough where people can get it, the view, especially in this phase of my career. Because before I was very, very concerned about being very meticulous before anybody hears anything. Now I'm more focused on showing process. Because honestly, showing the process, this is in my head, the showing the process also allows for critique, how people feel, and it gives me a time to rework things if I want to.
Yeah.
And I'm not in a rush to put things out because the minute it goes out, it becomes what's the next album? So I did the 10-week album where I showcased 10 of the tracks. And since then I've been on break from Brunch Beats because now I want to re-record, finalize these songs.
The 10 joints.
The 10 joints. And I actually may create maybe 2 or 3 more just to give myself room. I want the album to be like 10 tracks. And once I re-record, get all the pieces I want together, then I'm going to release the album. I haven't thought about a rollout or anything like that. When I'm assuming I'm going to do it this year, but I'm just kind of moving with the spirit. I just moved from LA, so I'm just getting settled back in the DMV area, reconnecting with people. So I'm not rushing that process. So I'm not sure when it's going to come out or, but I do want to add some more tracks to it. I did take one of the tracks and I just released it on all platforms. It's called That's a Definite.
Yeah.
I released it on my birthday last Wednesday. So because I feel like it was one of the joints that I was like, okay, this is pretty strong based off of the and I wanted to do something. For some reason we want to do something special on our birthday. I don't know what that's from or what that is. I just went along with it.
Oh, neither.
But I need to question myself on that because I'm just trying to break out of all these boxes of even celebrating one day out of the so-called 365 that we have. Like this one day is more special than the others. But for whatever reason, I released it. And so I'm expecting myself to get it, finish the album. It's going to be called Stars and Hearts. That original concept came because of my niece Ryan.
Oh, that's her name?
That's her name, yeah. So
Okay.
Ryan and Jordan. Ryan is the oldest. She drew me a picture. I think you saw it because I posted it on Instagram. It was about a year or two ago. And it said Ryan Lucas, and she had hearts and stars on it. And I started thinking about it. I said, this would be a dope album cover. And I posted, I was like, this would be a dope album cover.
Yeah, okay.
You remember? Okay,
Yeah.
So kind of remember, but I was like, this would be dope. First, it'd be dope because my niece will be a part of my project. Like when she gets older, she'll see that her uncle had her, use her artwork to share what he loves to do with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is I want them to unlock their creativity as young as possible and as often as possible at that age.
Yeah.
And so, because part of what I do is allowing them to get what, a version of me I never had, I keep touching this thing, a version of me that I never had. Someone who is fully living, expressing their art.
Yeah.
However it comes out.
Yeah.
And them, I would love for them to be able to balance it. Like I've been trying to balance it with everything, because art is a part of the bigger picture. So there's that, and then hearts and stars. Hearts and stars, I thought about, what does that mean? Hearts, stars we look up at, right? Heart is within us, right? Ground, heartbeat, we need it to live. The heart keeps us, for me, my heart keeps me remembering who I am, what I'm doing. The star is what I'm pushing towards, the journey to get into. So the album called Hearts and Stars, filled with a number of topics, some of them we shared today, and some messages I'm attempting to push. Nation building is one of the joints. where I talk about it, basically give a one-on-one class on what are the elements of building a nation. And when I say building a nation, it really starts with this like a community. I think you mentioned it before. But literally what it means is just us within ourselves. We know people do X, Y, and Z, and us just continue to work with us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Controlling resources, building our resources, protecting our resources, you know? And so that's pretty much, you know, that one. But there are a number of other tracks on there. There's one called Marry for the Movement. Because I'm still on the way. The first line is, we didn't marry for love, marry for the movement. Committed to uplift the people, improve it.
Yeah.
So the idea of marriage being about purpose of something versus the feeling of something.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting that the way you were talking about, but that's exactly what that is. But I don't want to neglect the romantic thing, because I mean, you know, I would love to, you know, I don't know we have the conversation another time maybe. Give me what you mean more about the concept of that, the feeling, where that came from. Because if that hasn't been with us forever, I would love to know where that came from. Because that changes, if that's what the real is, that changes my whole or questions or challenges my whole concept of how we should be moving in life.
So I went to an African event at Dr. Browder's YMCA.
Okay.
And it was about African unions and religions. And they talked about, this was maybe about 6-7 years ago. It was a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that this is a European concept that is relatively new, like Renaissance era type, where this feeling that you have inside of you is actually going to be the dominant factor in who you choose to spend the rest of your life with.
Right.
As if that is the end all be all.
Right.
And they gave a bunch of examples how that was just not something that was factored into African cultures at the time, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years ago. It could have been present, but it wasn't a dominant factor.
Okay.
And I can't remember, I kept the paperwork that I got out of that thing for years. And I think I just recently threw it away, maybe like about a year ago or so. But it was a real interesting class because I was with a woman at the time, and I was really just trying to understand different perspectives on like this concept of love and this concept of relationships. And I hadn't really migrated to where I am now about it. I was still just trying to understand the nuggets of it. But now, for me, bro, it's all about commitment. What are you committed to?
Yes, sir.
The feelings come and go. The commitment has to be, and this is gonna sound super crazy, but that's what you choose.
Right.
That is what you choose.
Exactly.
And all things come out of that choice.
Right.
And it's literally just saying yes or no. I'm gonna commit to this woman. Why? Because I said I would.
Right. Yeah.
Literally that motherfucking simple.
Yeah.
And we ain't got to create, because I feel like she's gonna be, or I just feel like, you went through that process before. You looked at what you saw. You see how she solves problems. You see how, again, like, what's her relationship to other people like? What is that? And then, you make, and if you just so happen to fall in love, and this shit happens. But it doesn't, it didn't, I got the impression that that's a new thing.
Wow.
Like these feelings. And like,
I can dig it, man.
Focused on that.
I can dig it. I think, yeah.
The shits are just too fleeting. Like, in my own, dude, if I focus on my feelings, and I'm a reactionary person too, which I think is different from you. Like you You said what do you consider? You think,
Yeah,
consider, and then reconsider?
Yeah.
I think, and I'll fucking be trying to, let me just, and I'll contain in my mind. I start, and then I'm way too reactionary. And that's been a positive for me, and it's also been a negative. And I found that the more I can restrict that and understand what's going on inside, the better long-term decisions I'm making from that
Absolutely.
process. Because the short term, like,
Absolutely.
shit just don't work.
Yeah.
You believe in aliens?
You know, I've been getting into the planets and all that, and the stars and all that stuff, because I think I'm fascinated with the idea that we're like made of the same thing stars are made of, right?
Yeah.
Do I believe in aliens? I don't know. I don't have an opinion either way. I think that there's a lot out there beyond this earth, and I leave it at that. Like I'm interested in, I watch a lot of like space documentaries. Anything I can get my hands on when it comes to that, like all of the different planets have been found and stars and, how we orbit, the fact that the sun is orbiting around like the Milky Way is just,
Yeah.
I was like, really? So the earth, it's just, the whole design is just amazing to me.
I've heard you mention aliens a couple times in your joint.
Oh, really? Okay.
And some of the sounds, and I think we had a
Oh,
conversation.
that's right. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And I'm saying that because as I was listening to one of your tracks, I can't remember which one. I'm going to name
That's cool.
this episode From Slave Ships to Spaceships.